Good evening, Hawks fans, and welcome to another Talking Hawks game review live stream. Tonight, I'm joined by Matt to go through it all. Well, it was another Easter Monday clash that ended in heartbreak, going down by 7 points to the Cats. It was most certainly a frustrating afternoon watching some of our best players kick directly to the opposition over and over again, made even more painful that it was happening against our greatest rival. Plenty of stories to chat about from this game. So make sure to get any questions, comments in. We'll get to as many as we can in the chat. Matt, give us your thoughts. It was a rough watch, I think, in the end.
Yes. Hello, everyone. It was a big occasion. It was the stage was set.
Mm-hmm.
We were dancing on it. We just maybe tripped over our own feet a little bit. But yeah, it's frustrating. In a word, and we have a good look in the mirror. We've crossed ourselves on this one.
Yeah.
Definitely should have won it. I was a bit annoyed at the umpires at the time. Won't bring up that, but it was, we gave ourselves a really good chance and we let ourselves down with our disposal. Essentially, that's my really short and sharp assessment. But I was riding the bumps with a grin. Just didn't have one big enough bump to get us over the line.
Yeah, it was. So last week, the Port Adelaide game, that was frustrating in the sense that it just looked like we didn't show up. We weren't there to give our energy. We definitely bought energy on Monday, but just the lack of skill at times was shocking. I'm not sure. Sam Mitchell even was perplexed by it, sounding like in the press conference, just how, some of your best players can kick directly to the opposition so many times. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of the more specific players soon. But yeah, it was a hard watch at the end of the day. I never really felt like we were going to win. I was just like, we haven't really put together 10 minutes of really nice footy here during the entire game. So when even we got within 1 point in the last quarter, I'm like, who's looking to stand up? Because right now I can't see anyone. It's kind of all just looking to our left to see if, the player next to us is going to stand up and really show for something. But there wasn't one person there who was going to do it for us. And yeah, just couldn't get it over the line in the end. And I thought, Geelong were the cleaner side and they punished us when they needed to. And yeah, congrats to them. Again, just so many times.
Ouch.
So,
it hurts.
Yeah.
I like your point, though, the effort. Compared to last week, hey, we turned up from the first quarter. The effort was there throughout the game, and there was some that were really good, mainstays from the Hawks in that, in front of a record crowd. So there was everything to play for. Good. I think there was swirly conditions. You were at the ground. I didn't get to this one, but yeah, it's Jesus. Did that put the if they got a new boot strapper and putting the boots on the wrong foot? I don't know what happened. But look, we dominated on some of the really key stats.
Yeah.
Disposals, 64 more disposals. We had 55 to 46 inside 50s. It's hit outs dominated. The clearances were even. It was a tough battle from both sides. Contested possessions was one difference between the two teams. So there was definitely a good fight from both teams. It's turnovers, we were up 58 to 52. But the marks inside 50s, even you're like, surely, 55 inside 50s, 18 marks inside 50s. You look at that on the stat sheet, you're going to give yourself a good chance every day of the week.
Yeah, if you had have shown me that stat line after the game, I'd say, oh, yeah, we'd nearly be into it, nearly winning that game, I just unfortunate that we couldn't get it done. And at the end of the day, it was just that we were our own worst enemy. And I think, sometimes this is a game that you can just go, okay, the skills were shocking and, you come back next week and get it done. But yeah, when do we start getting a little bit concerned? Oh, we've just lost Matt for the moment. But yeah, I'm not sure what we're going to look like. But we've got West Coast coming up this week, and this is an absolute must win, and not just a win by 20 points. This is a win by 10 goals plus if we really want to, cement our spot. People talking in the media about us, they're being pretty harsh at the moment, but I think it's fair. And when we've heard from, some of the media pundits that know and analyze the game, we are quite down on where we were this time last year. So we do need to look to improve. And I think there's quite a few players I think are down on form that really had quite career best years last year that we've got to start looking at. Matt, you come back. Thanks. You joined us again. That's all good.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's an interesting game. 4-2. You know, if you ask us at the start of the season, you'd be pretty happy. I've got a few questions. I've got let me throw it to the fans and let's go through some of these comments. So have a bit of a look for us. But, geez, if you've got, to all of you in the comments, please, surely is Sicily in your top 3 players that are going to take a shot on goal from outside 50? Tell me if Sicily is not in your top 3 players, because, man, I would say it's close to 100% of Hawthorn fans. But, yeah.
Yeah, I think before, this week, you probably go, yep, for sure, we'd love Sicily having a shot on goal for us to win the game. But something has just been off recently with his kicking. Even in the Port game, that first half, he would just directly turn it over, like kick the ball to a Port Adelaide player, lace out like on a lead. It was, stunning to watch. And I go, he's never going to kick that bad again. And he comes and plays on Easter Monday, and it's another quite sorry display from Sicily. And I'm sure he's feeling it about how he performed. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Would you want him to kick from 50 out? I don't know. Not at the moment. Is he injured? Is he sore? I did hear someone say maybe he had ice on his groin at one point, but after the game. But I'm not. It can be really hard to tell. We're never going to be inside the 4 walls to know what's going on. But going from our best kick in the team to genuinely a play that could have really cost us the game on the weekend, which is unfortunate to say about your captain. But, it's hard to be too down on Sicily. He worked his butt off last year. He carried the team for basically the entire season with one shoulder, opting not to go and get surgery. So you can't be too upset. I think any calls to drop him is beyond an overreaction, really. I think if he's the captain we know and love about him, he comes out in the next couple of weeks and really responds. Or maybe he needs the week off. It's going to be an interesting one on what they do with Sicily. But I don't believe he cost us the game, but there was just a few moments where you go, some dropped marks in that forward line in the last quarter, some direct turnovers that cost us goals. I mean, he wasn't alone in having a down game, but it was a bit unfortunate to see it from our captain who, every week I put so much trust in him to just get his job done. But yeah, I think this is potentially a good point. It's been raised, talking to other Hawk supporters, that maybe we just are trying a little bit too hard. The last few weeks or the last 2 weeks, we just haven't been getting our game going. I thought particularly the kind of lack of communication that was on show was my main issue. A few too many players getting chased down without anyone calling. I think, was it Weddle that got caught, potentially Warple a couple of times, just getting chased down with ball in hand and no one around to be like, hey, you're hot, someone's behind you, get the ball off. Just that lack of game awareness, just a couple of steps behind Geelong, really troubled me a little bit. And I think the team synergy is just a bit off, kicking into places where we expect a teammate to be and not being able to find, or kicking straight to that area when our player's actually not there. It's quite unfortunate that we just look a bit out of sync at the moment. Yeah, I think seen a few comments coming in around how upset Sicily looked in the rooms after the game. Yeah, potentially a problem with his groin. I mean, if that's an issue, you're absolutely going to have problems kicking. But maybe does it get to a point where he needs to have a rest? This is an interesting point from Lachlan. Leave Sicily down back and potentially use Battle as a forward option. Now, I know Battle was always going to get that matchup with Jeremy Cameron last week, and I feel like he did pretty well in that. A few of the goals that I can't remember how many Jezza kicked, but he kicked 2 in the end. That's right. I don't necessarily think they were directly from issues that was with Battle, but I think, yeah, that could be an option. We're looking for a forward at the moment, that's for sure. And recently, Sicily's been filling that kind of void when we need it, but it's unfortunately hasn't really worked the last couple of weeks. So we might need to start looking elsewhere. Cal Shadia, good news about him. He will be back at Box Hill this week. Yes, on limited minutes, but so exciting for him to get back into it. Can't wait till we see him at AFL level. So hopefully, goes out, plays well, gets through unscathed on the weekend at Box Hill. I think he'll probably get one more game after this week at Box Hill again, and then potentially looking at that Melbourne game to come back in, which is very exciting. We've been absolutely missing Cal Shadia down there. But yeah, I think I hope that this is kind of going to be our most frustrating loss for the year. I don't love those games where you really are missing your chances. Like early on, the misses from Chol, Gunston, Hardwick, CMAC was 1-3. Those are just some of the worst games to watch, even potentially even more annoying and frustrating to watch than the week before when we were playing Port and getting smashed. Just not being able to take our chances is so frustrating. Matt, you're back.
Hello,
again.
Sorry.
That's all right. We're just having a few bits of technical issues. So if Matt drops in and out, I'll try and keep the ship steady, but that's all right.
All right. Give me, where were we at?
We're just having a chat about some of the missed opportunities early on, and potentially like a lack of team synergy really at the moment. Just not looking our best selves.
Yeah, I think it's there's glimpses, isn't there? It's like there's, like you said, the intensity was there. A lot more competitiveness in the first quarter. Throughout. I loved the efforts by Warple, Nuke, Amon, Scrim, Charlie, Meek, Watto. There was players that were playing their guts out. Battle, a quiet game by his standards, but had his hands full with Cameron. It's like there was some boys that were playing really well. Weddle, Meek. It's like they were turning up. Just there was little bits, just not quite well oiled. But to add to the stats I was saying before, Geelong's tackles inside forward 50, which is where you win the game on the scoreboard. Their tackles inside forward 50, it was 20 to our 16. Yes, we were in.
Oh, Matt might have dropped out again, but I think I know where he's going with this one, which is the fact that, yes, tackles inside 50 for 20 to 16, I believe, at the end. But during the game, it was like 12-1 at one point. It was pretty drastically different. And we only kind of lifted in that second half when we got more into the game. But yeah, not loving that at the moment, especially when we are a small forward team. Like that's what we do. We have Chol, and, Gunston's really not a tall. He doesn't play like a tall. He doesn't bring the ball to ground. So, he takes marks on the lead. So it's really hard if we are, Chol's working his butt off to bring the ball to ground, or, anyone else. The one time it looked really good was when Watson kicked that snap in one of the later quarters. And that's when it looked perfect. That's exactly what we needed, but we just couldn't get any more of that going. A few comments in here on Massimo. It's very, yes, he's down on form. There's quite a few that are. I think our wings are a big stinging point at the moment. Morrison had a very interesting game, did a few amazing things, and did some baffling things that were just like, how is he still getting a game? Sometimes he definitely had one of those up and down type of games. And Morrison, he's another one that struggles kind of on those more offensive wingers. So Ollie Dempsey, I thought he had a really good game, and not all the time, but most of the time when he was getting goal side or having a shot on goal, he was the one doing it. So Morrison was the one on Dempsey. So it's very hard when we don't have, those skills on their wing and we're just relying on our halfbacks who have just defended for the last 20 minutes. But yeah, very, very interesting. I think there's going to be some changes coming this week. I mean, we know we're going to have Nash out at least. So maybe we can have a quick chat about the Nash incident. Not too much to say. Yes, it was an accident, but it was a bad accident. And we hope, Grime Myers as well today. But yeah, he's going to get some time on the sidelines, whether it's 3-4 weeks, maybe. It's going to be a while, and unfortunate for Nashy that he's going to have to miss what is going to be a reasonably sized chunk of footy. But as we've spoken about for the last couple of weeks, is Hustwaite, who's in the VFL and really just dominating week after week, had 35 disposals again on the weekend, 8 tackles. I mean, he just has to come in. I'm seeing a lot of comments in here. Hustwaite needs to come in. Yeah, a lot of interesting spellings of Hustwaite. But yeah, I think that's a change that must be made this week. The other thing I'm looking at is Ginnivan. He was dropped. We've spoken about it the last few weeks. This is the first time we've hopped on Livestream where they actually did pull the pin on dropping Ginnivan. Love to know everyone's thoughts in the comments about that. I wasn't the biggest fan. I could see where it was coming from. He was extremely out of form. He potentially was playing sore or injured, hadn't had that full preseason, and it really, really looked like it out there. But I think he's such a big game player. He's the type of person that you could bring on, he could play his game against Geelong on Monday and, restart his year from there and kick 3 or 4 and be really damaging and have 20 disposals. He could have been, one of our clean guys when no one else was. So I think if we're talking about his Box Hill performance, he goes back there and kicks 4. So you nearly have to recall him straight back in. Like if that's all he needed was a 1-week stint at Box Hill, then awesome. Yeah, so 4-2 and 22 disposals. So I unfortunately couldn't get to watch the entire game, but seeing some of the highlights, reading that stat line, I'm really hoping that, potentially someone like Josh Ward, I thought he had quite a disaster on Monday, just lack of game awareness, lack of footy IQ. That was I think Ward just needs to have that stint in Box Hill. And I feel like if we're going to make some changes, I would love to see Ginnivan and Hustwaite in for Nash and Ward. Potentially, Sammy Butler, his first full game back at Box Hill, he slots 4. So love that for Butler. He's had a very, very horrible injury that he's had to return from. So glad to see that's another option, to bring in another small forward if we're struggling in that area. Matt, do you think there's any changes that we need that you want to see in the next week?
I think Punky's going to be hard to keep his spot after this week.
Yeah.
Clearly Nash gone. You probably touched on that. Is it 2 weeks?
Oh, I think it'll be a bit longer. He's already he's already been sent straight to the tribunal, which is a minimum of 3 weeks. So they're talking 3 or 4 weeks, which is a decent stint.
We'll come back to that one. I'm not sure if Ward, he seems to be the one that sort of can get a bit of pressure and get dropped. I'm not saying necessarily him. I'm comfortable even putting the question out there, should Guinea stay at Box Hill for another week to look at what he can really bring and set a standard and bring some real intensity when he comes back in and lead strongly from the front after 2 good performances at Box Hill. So, they're the first ones that come to mind. I yesterday when the emotions were there, I'm like, do we drop our captain? I'm wondering, is Sicily injured? There might be something like that for mine, might justify you give someone a rest that potentially you wouldn't think of, but they've been just a bit of an injury and getting through. So, yeah, interested to know what they think on this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, Jai Sarong is also there. Not sure whether he's had a majorly standout performance at Box Hill yet, but he is every week. He goes there, gets some nice numbers, and could be the option to come in for someone like a Sicily if he needs a rest. But if he does need a rest, we seriously just need to pull it at some point. We can't just keep playing him and him losing all this confidence. Just have the week off, get feel better in your body, and then come back in, and then you can go back to the same old Sicily that we know and love.
With the selections that we from last year, I don't know that there's too much changing of the philosophy, but Zane Littlejohn loved to see the boys have 3 good weeks in a row, as far as consistency to really put the hand up. I think Scaife was rough the other week, sort of copped the injuries, probably stringing a couple together. Ramsden potentially now, but not quite 3 in a row. I don't know that I don't know that we're going to have 2 ruckmen in, even though Reeves is getting his hands on the ball a bit, or doing his hit out work well. Not sure who's the first one in.
I think you have to bring in Huswaite in. I'm not sure who else there would be besides him. He's now put in consistent form for nearly a year. So we're talking about 3 games. He's nearly had 3 seasons of consistent Box Hill form. So he needs to come straight in. I was nearly calling it for last week, but if now's the time, well, that's got to go. He's got to come in and we can just see how he goes. He's more of a pure mid compared to someone like Ward or Mackenzie who can kind of play on the wing a little bit. Not sure whether that would be his go, but it's going to be interesting to see what that midfield mix looks like if Huswaite comes in. I think.
Well, I think he's just going to get some middle, but how much?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because someone's got to replace Nash with those 70-80% CBAs, whether everyone just gets a boost. Dylan Moore's another one who's maybe been a bit out of form, not being able to get his hands on it too much. When he looked his best was when he played midfield in that second half when Nash went off, got subbed off. So maybe we see, Moore get that big boost. But he's one of our better link-up half forwards, so you can't lose that. But there's going to be a lot to talk about at Hawthorn HQ this weekend, I'm sure.
Yeah, the changes in the backfield can move in a variety of places. If you Hardwick, if Morey, it's just fascinating to see. There's so much flexibility now, but is there a need for some consistency in positions? I saw a few fans talking about, where do you play Sicily? Does he need to stay in that one spot? Morey agree. He's not himself from last year, right at the moment.
Yeah, there's quite a few down on kind of their 2024 form, which you would expect when a lot of them had career best years. But, we had Newcombe start extremely slowly last year, then build into winning the PCM. So it's not all doom and gloom. They can turn it around from here. But, someone like a Massimo or even Watson's not getting as much as I would like. Obviously, he had that amazing game against GWS where he was best on ground, basically. But, just getting a bit more consistency in that impact. Warple's been an interesting one. I would have liked him to stand up a bit more with Daisy out, but it's a bit rough at the moment with so many players, but down on form. But you can turn around easily. I think there's just a bit of a lack of confidence in the group at the moment.
I like Warple's attack. I actually, he's probably, for mine, I know Jai had more possessions, but his attack on the ball for mine really set a tone. So I didn't mind his game, even though he might have been looking for more.
It's just just been looking just like to really cement himself as our second best mid. Like Newcomb's and Day are always going to be fighting for that one spot. Now with Day out, Warple should really clean and cut be our second mid. But he's kind of, even Mackenzie's kind of up there with him. Nash is around there. So, yeah, we just need to take that extra step, but it can be hard. But Shane's pointed out here, 13 tackles. I do, as you said, I love when he tackles and gets in there. Just sometimes a few of the things he does, like just getting caught a couple of times a game. He seems to want to take on the tackler a lot, rather him, get that handball out. But, it comes in time, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a great point that Craig's brought up. I think this is a bigger concern than we've noticed recently. It really was on show. They have a especially speedy midfield at the moment with Bailey Smith and Max Holmes going in there, and we really struggled with quelling their influence at points. I know they didn't have massive games, but whenever they got a touch, they were 20 meters away from our players and nearly impossible to tackle. We don't have speed in that midfield at the moment, and I don't know how we inject it. Is it with Dylan Moore? Is it with someone like Watson, Weddle, something like that?
Yeah, Sam said to Timmy's question at a presser the other week, do you increase Mackenzie's game time, because he was around about 70%, I think was the quote, for the season. And Sam said, interesting question, because he is our, as an athlete, the one with the greatest acceleration and deceleration rates.
Okay, yeah.
So do you take away some of his speed bursting out of a contest or stopping on a dime, which he uses so well, if you're getting him running more? So maybe a couple more bursts from Frenchie.
Yeah, I thought he actually played a really good game. Early on, him and Weddle were best on ground that first half, in my opinion. And Mackenzie and Weddle, as you're saying, are our two probably fastest burst players. So, it proved that when we need them, it works really well. But yeah, it's hard if he's has just a little bit lacking in that game fitness to push it for an entire 80%, 85% game time.
Yeah, it's little tweaks. I think at this time of year, it's going to come. We're going to keep building it. Fortunately, we've got a few opponents, so you can't take your foot off the gas, but you want to really use the next to really make a few things click, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, we just saw Gold Coast, who were the last undefeated team, lose to Richmond, who were predicted at the start of the year to not win a game. So anything can happen if you take it lightly. We went into the Port game taking it lightly. We cannot do that. It needs to be absolutely foot on the throat, like type of performances over the next few weeks. You cannot let games slip to bottom sides. It shouldn't. If we are a decent team, then that should not be happening. And it needs to be, especially against West Coast, who have not looked really likely until they played Essendon the other week. They've probably got a sniff of a win coming up when they, just as I said, losing just to that 2 points to Essendon. So yeah, you definitely cannot take it lightly.
Well, look, are we the hunted? We were hunting last year. I don't know that we're quite the hunted yet, but I think teams would love to really bring their best efforts against the Hawks, because we do have more and more fans getting noisy again and coming to games and all of that. So, Anyway.
That's the thing. Like, it's going to be tricky no matter who you're going up. We're going to be, especially the last 2 weeks. I mean, Port were obviously very frustrated, very angry at us still, and they channeled all the way into us through a pumping in that first half. So the same thing, Geelong are always going to bring their A game against us. And Port, people saying, Port played their grand final last week, which is nearly probably true. Like, they're going to try and play their absolute best against us, and Geelong probably the same as well. So the fact that we couldn't stand up is a bit disappointing, but if they're very good sides, like Port just beat Sydney up there as well. So they're not terrible sides, but I think, I think we just need to bank a couple of wins in the next few weeks.
Yeah, we're approaching that round 8, point, round 6, round 8. You sort of start to see what the teams have got. Yes, there's buys earlier now, so I'm going to be pushing to more round 7, round 8, where you start to see teams, what they're made of for the year. So, interested. What are some of the comments I've been in and out, Loz, from the fans though? Perhaps you want to have a quick squeeze because I've had to go to Plan B here to keep with you. Interested to know, everyone, do you agree we go Cal Shadir, who we've obviously got a big heart for, and amazing the way he got up for the, speaking in front of the group and about his dad. Very amazing, the Deer family, amazing cause. So it was great to see all of that. The young fellow, though, he's stood up faster than we all thought he might, and probably want to look after him. It'd be nice to have him in there alongside Cholly at the moment. You give him a week and he's straight back in if he gets through that.
Well, I think the discussion kind of is to give him a half this week, a full game the week after, and then back for the Melbourne game. He's such a young kid. These stress fracture injuries, we've just seen what happened with Daisy. If you don't manage your stress fracture, it can lead to very long-term injuries. So I think you just wait it out, be patient, and then he comes in. And I think it'll do, as you said, do Chol a world of good to have someone else down there, kind of taking away some of the attention from him. But maybe we could have a chat about Chol. He had a interesting game on Monday. Like, he kicks the 3. At some points he looks so dangerous. Other points you're like, what are you doing? Misses that goal early and you just go, oh, this is not good for him. This is like, he's a confidence player, but he backed it up, kicked a few, but just not enough impact in the last quarter, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was brilliant. He kept going. You're right, with the confidence and kicking that one from the boundary. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Pretty casual about it. He liked it.
Yeah, I think, he's definitely one that can look very casual when he's playing.
And here's the intensity. It's a little stat, but Chol, Meek does, the lion's share, 82 ruck contest. Chol got in for 4. Meek, who is almost like a midfielder in there for us at times, he got 2 centre clearances of his 82 ruck contest. Chol's leveled the ledger there on the centre clearances. He's got 2, and he's only gone in for 4 ruck contests. So I don't know how many were all centre clearances, centre ball ups, but Cholly doing well there, getting his hands on it.
Yeah, I don't mind when he goes into the middle, especially against he was second rucking against Shannon Neal, who's a very tall, big bloke, but can't really jump that super high in the air. Whereas Chol was just leaping over him, which really worked well in the end. And then we send Weddle forward. But he had an interesting game for sure. I think at the start of the game there was like, Chol's never going to be the answer. He's got to be dropped, and then he kicks 3, and you go, well, he was feeling one of our best players at the end of the day. So he's always going to be that type of player that's going to be controversial within the fan group. But really, he's what we got at the moment, so we've got to back him in.
Yeah, totally. No, I think he's doing well, and if that confidence just keeps growing week to week, and it's chemistry as well. This group really only started to galvanise from round 5 last year. So if we're 1 year in now, it's still a good ceiling to keep lifting as a group. So especially that forward group. So did we touch on Carl?
Yeah, no, we haven't. I was just going to say, let's get into some of our players that actually did go well.
Carl's had another lazy 800 metres gain. So mine, he racked them up. On the night of watching, I'm writing it all, but he just sort of snuck those. I think he's 29 as well, leading possession getter. Correct me if I'm wrong, fans, but I think he just is racking them up. Interesting to see his impact, and maybe the teams are putting in more work into Massimo, but hands on it, which is great to see. I think he was an important player for us.
Yeah, Carl's one that I think is Nelly probably leading the PCM medal at the moment. Like he's just been very consistent, week in, week out, playing his role. And yeah, just he gets, when you get the ball into his hands, you really trust and believe with what he's going to do. But yeah, just back him in every week, you know exactly what you're going to get from him. And I think, yeah, he's definitely one of our best players so far this year.
I'm going to have to give an eye on plan B, fix up my battery. What did you think of C-Mac's comeback game? And I'll join you back in a sec. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all good. C-Mac, yeah. I thought at times he looked dangerous, but just couldn't convert. It's really hard to be frustrated or at a player who's coming back from injury. So I'm not going to say too much about him, but yeah, a little bit frustrating to kick 1-3. He had plenty of friends in that area of kicking poorly at goal, but I thought there was a few things he did. I was like, okay, it's good to have C-Mac back. Some marks, some nice kicks inside 50. So just a few moments where you go, maybe he's still a little bit sore, but I think as he eases back in over the next couple of weeks, we'll get back to the C-Mac we know and love. But yeah, it's an interesting one with C-Mac. I'm hoping that it's just the issues with the accuracy was just first game back jitters.
Yeah. Look, he still had I think score involvement. C-Mac had
Well, I think we'll just give Matt a second to fix up his internet connection. But yeah, as Matt was going to say, what I think he was going to say was with his score involvements, they were still up nice and high, up 9 for C-Mac. So he plays that important role, getting down forward of the ball, getting involved when in our scoring system. But yeah, he's fine. He's great. It's going to come good in the next couple of games, I'm sure. And I think there was a few other issues in our forward line that that we could have looked at before we have C-Mac. But I'm glad that he's back. Absolutely. Interesting. More comments about some forwards. I think we've yet to chat about Hardwick. I would love to have a chat about him. I think, in my opinion, that forward experiment, I really feel like it's run its course in the forward line. It hasn't been working. He did have, the 1 week where he looked really good there, but he's just getting found out a bit too easily. He's missing easy shots. And it's just not a problem this week. It's happened a couple of times. So I think moving him back, yeah, there's so many people moving up and down the ground, Sicily, Hardwick, and both of them are somewhat out of form. So I don't know whether we just need to put them in their space and leave them there for a game to build back into it. But I don't know how amazing this moving everyone around all the time is. Yeah, I'm seeing battle for Hardwick. That's an interesting one. It's going to be interesting what happens with that forward line in the up and coming weeks. But who we move down there, who we move out, when Kalshadir comes back, are we going to see Gunston as much? Even though Gunston's been our highest scoring forward after being sub for half the game, so yeah, we don't want to rely on Gunston, but he's been working very hard for us recently.
He has, hasn't he? Geez,
yeah.
My technology is about 1 goal 6 tonight, so
that's all right. We have those nights.
We will see how we go. I don't know if I'll be able to last too much longer.
That's all right. That's all good. We will be looking to wrap it up in a moment anyways, but I think, yeah, the top line for this week is that, a frustrating game. There's players out of form, but with a few, a run in the next 3 weeks on some of the lower down teams, we've got chances to really kind of get our confidence back. I think the team, really as a whole is just lacking in confidence, and hopefully coming up we can get that done against the Eagles, and then North, is it? And then Melbourne. But hopefully we're getting everyone, not North, Richmond, that's right. So hopefully everyone can get down to Marvel on the weekend, because it is our home game. Rarely do we have, only a couple of times a year do we have home games at Marvel. If you remember back to last year, we got all of our early wins at Marvel. So when we beat North, when we beat the Doggies, and when we beat Brisbane, they were all at Marvel, and we go, we couldn't play at the MCG, and by the end of the year, MCG was our best ground. So it'll be interesting to see how we go at Marvel this weekend against West Coast, who are yet to win a game. It needs to, as I've said a few times tonight, needs to be an absolute smashing. Like, I want to see some of those out of form players go, and if there's people with injuries, you can give them the week off. Box Hill had a massive win on the weekend against the Geelong VFL side. So there is a few blokes there that can be recalled, and we've talked about that a few times. But yeah, I'm loving there's a lot of chat about about Gunners. But yeah, what a man. When he was at Brisbane, they played him a few times, and he was just didn't look like himself, and obviously still struggling with the back complaint. And you go, well, maybe it's good that we got rid of him. There probably isn't much left in him, but he's come out and been our top goal scorer, just kicking multiple goals every week. There was points, like if he had have kicked straight, he could have had 5 or 6 again. There were so many moments where some of their players, like they had their young draftee Connor O'Sullivan on him a few times, where he just was making him look like the kid he is. But yeah, I think as we look towards wrapping it up, I'm trying to check out my notes, see if there's anything to talk about. The main issue in this game specifically, compared to the Port Adelaide game, where we had lots of problems everywhere, this game was really like forward half turnovers or forward 50 turnovers. Like when we were chipping the ball around the back, how many times did we not kick accurately over 20 meters under no pressure? How many times did we kick, would Scrimshaw kick it somewhere and it'd go along the ground at their feet, or the player would have to run 10 meters to get to the ball? Like, why couldn't we kick 20 meters straight out under no pressure? It's shocking. Scrimshaw is one that glad to have back. I thought he did a couple of nice things, took an intercept mark or two, but obviously hard to get fully back into the game having 3 weeks off. So we'll be better for it in the long run with Scrim back. But with Scrim in, it moved CJ to the bench, to the sub vest. So that's an interesting point. I would love to see what anyone thought about CJ getting moved to the bench. I thought it was probably deserved. I didn't know about playing Brewster full game. Does he still have the capacity, the stamina to run out a full game? Well, maybe he didn't, because he did end up getting subbed off. But yeah, CJ's an interesting one. I wish I could go back and scroll, because I did see some good points about how he's just a little bit too fumbly, doesn't have the greatest footy IQ or game awareness, so struggles to decide where to kick the ball. But there's definitely a few players like that. I think some of our depth, so the Ward, Morrison, McGuinness, CJ, have really been shown out like the last few weeks. And I think when you're a good side, even your bottom 5 players are playing really well, and we just haven't seen it from them in the last 2 weeks. Yeah, I think this is the main thing. It's just his decision making is really, it's quite frustrating to watch, that's for sure. I think, yeah, maybe another stint at Box Hill is due for CJ. but it's a tricky one because he does bring a lot of energy to the team. So all the boys love him. He's, the DJ down there. So not sure whether that's worth enough to get a spot on the side. But it's just our depth at the moment is not helping us. Our bottom 5 players are letting us down a bit. So it'll be interesting to see at any point does Sammy swing the knife. I feel like, even in our losses, some of our big losses last year, we wouldn't see 3-4 changes made in one day. In one game. Could we see that coming at some point? I mean, if we lose this week, you'd want to probably hope so. But yeah, I think if there's any other comments, any other concerns, any questions, I would love to get your predictions in for the West Coast game. We need the bounce back. If I'm going to guess, let's say Hawthorn by 45 points. And even then I might be a little disappointed if we're not playing to our absolute best. So I would love to see us win by, a good 60 plus point total. Hopefully get that done, get back into a bit of form, build up the confidence, go again against Richmond and potentially hopefully get another win. But yeah, you just can never underestimate these sides. They can show up on a random week and beat anyone. And I think our worst at the moment could definitely get beat by one of these sides. And our best is smashing them by 100 points. So we definitely got to, shrink that gap between our best football and our worst, because right now it's our best can beat anyone. Our worst could lose to West Coast on the weekend. So, yep, Hawthorn by 145. Well, wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, when Hawthorn and West Coast were the 2 teams that hadn't won a game yet, we went on to play them in Tassie. We did win by, 100 plus. So it's very possible. Some crazy stat lines here. 230 to 70. Well, yep, I'd love to watch that. I don't know if we have enough scoring power to get there. 28 points. Our forwards aren't lighting up at the moment, but it really does take one game to get back into it. A lot of them are young kids, and besides Bruce and Gunston, they're young guys. They're young into their career, and kicking a couple of goals for them can really go a long way. So hopefully, yeah, we get a few bags from a few players. No, absolutely can't blame the wind at Marvel. No way they'll get within 36. Interesting. 45 points, Gunners 4, the Wiz 2, Chol 3. Would be nice to get the Wiz back into a little bit of form. Gunners 6, Charlie 4, Guinea, find some form. Would love that. Okay, here's some team predictions. Guinea, Huss and Rams and in for Nash, Bruce and CJ. Yep. Be good for our percentage. That's right. Our percentage right now is not the best. Let me just double check what it is at the moment. 108.3, which is pretty disappointing. Definitely by far the lowest for all the other teams that have won 4 games. So yeah, we need it in the next couple of weeks, but don't think we need to be too down in the dumps. We have played, 5 of our first 6 games were all against sides that played in the finals last year. Yes, Carlton aren't as good potentially as they were at points last year, but you can only win against who you play. So 4-2, we take it for now, and we move on to next week. And I think potentially, we had the bring the mouth guards moment, bring the kicking boots moment. Can we have that this week, hopefully, where we just go down and, what was interesting before I jump off was that at halftime, the whole group was together when they come back out on the field, just warming up, doing some run-throughs and things like that. And Sicily was pulled on his side, on his own, having kick to kick, potentially, I think it was with Cade Simpson, the backline coach. Does that mean he was trying to get back, get the feel for his kick again? Does that mean he's carrying something? Obviously, in the rooms after we saw him have some ice ice on potentially on his groin. You know, if we need to rest him, we probably should. But Newcomb to have 50 disposals. Wow. Hustwaite 40 plus, more 4 goals. Yeah, I think this is probably the comment I would love to lean on. Ooh, I think this week is going to be really telling. We need to go there, put our heads down and get the job done, and make sure that all of this down on form chat that's coming from the media can just be shut up for a week or two. Just get the 4 points next 3 weeks, then it will be hard. Yeah, we do have a trickier run after that. We've got a Gold Coast game in a month or so up in the north in the north of Australia, which is always a very tricky ground. They beat nearly everyone up there just because of the conditions. But we just focus on this week, get the job done, and then hopefully we can slowly build into this season again. Having the hot start, there's always going to be form slumps. You're not going to go through a season where you're having wins or honourable losses every single week. There's going to be some thrashings. There's going to be some frustrating games. And unfortunately, we got handed that one this week. But, there's always next week, and we look to the future. So thank you so much for joining me and Matt tonight. I know Matt's been in and out. Unfortunately, he's had some issues with his laptop. Those things happen, but hopefully I didn't bore you too much by myself for most of the time. But I think, we've got to get ourselves back into form. And I think we have a game against West Coast, the team that hasn't won a game yet, to do that against. So, but thank you for joining us tonight. Make sure to subscribe. We'll try and get on next week, potentially after the game. We'll have a look at that, see if any of us are available. I think a few of us will be getting down to that game. So we'll see if we'll be here to have a live stream either on Sunday or Monday next week. But really keen to have a chat, really keen to get back on the winners ledger, really hoping that we can get that done this week. But just subscribe, all those good things on this Talking Hawks channel. Visit the website. There's 6 points coming with Tim and Liam. I think Tim is our regular optimistic guy. So if you want to hear that we're all good, everything's going to be okay, head over and have a listen to the 6 points, and follow us on X, Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram. We've been posting a lot of stories, or any updates on our Instagram story as well. So get over there, get down there, give us a follow. But thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Been interesting to be by myself a part of it, but wonderful. I hope you all have a good week, and let's get this win. Go Hawks.